Hey there, how's it going? It's 2:30 in the afternoon on a Friday, everyone. Happy Friday to all. And a big game week 16 coming up tomorrow, isn't it? Really, it is. We've got a Manchester derby to look forward to on Sunday. Got a lot going on, some good fixtures. Everton back in action as well after having their match postponed, didn't they, against Liverpool in the Merseyside derby. That's right. But this part 16 of FPL talk. We're doing all things FPL as always. We are going to focus on something interesting. We are. News broke the other day, didn't it, about the mystery chip? Yes, on Fantasy Premier League. That's right, the assistant manager. And it blew my mind a tiny bit. Yes, I was thinking, what's this? I knew there was a mystery chip coming. Didn't really entirely know what it was going to be. I thought maybe we would get a quadruple captain or something stupid like that, or an ability to do yet another wild card potentially, or something random like that. But no, they threw a complete curveball, an assistant manager. The first thing I thought to myself is, I'm the manager. I don't want an assistant manager. I don't want someone getting involved in my team. And then I sort of read a little bit more about it, understood a tiny bit, although I'm still trying to get to grips with every little element of it, to be honest with you. So we will do part 16 solely about that. We will look predominantly at the assistant manager chip. So I will show you guys what's going on in my end and let you have a little look at everything. So that was my team. If you remember, we ended the previous part this morning at 10 a.m. looking at my team. I haven't changed my vice captain, so it still remains on Saka, and Salah remains my captain for this weekend. Salah has Fulham, Saka has Everton, both home games. Fingers crossed. Now, this chip, it came out, didn't it? The breaking news. Yes, yesterday it was about or at least that was when the details were put out yesterday, about this chip in general. We get an assistant manager, don't we? So in this example here, Areola, from he's Bournemouth, isn't he? Bournemouth manager. He is the chosen assistant manager for the team. So as you can see there, that was the choice. It came out, and this was the details essentially about this. Is the chip that earns you points on top of what you're already receiving. So if your team wins, so for example, if Iraola's team wins, he gets 6 extra points. If it draws, he gets 3 points. For every goal that's scored, they get 1 point per goal. Clean sheet, you get 2 points straight off the bat, and you get a bonus. Now, the bonus or tail bonus is essentially if you're playing a team that's ranked 5 below you in the league, essentially you get an extra 10 points for a win. So 16. The win, obviously, 6 points, 10 extra on top of that. There you go, 16 points if you play someone. So that might be quite useful. If you're lower league manager, the lower part of the league manager. So we're talking, I don't know, the West Hams, the Wolves, even Bournemouth to a degree. I don't exactly know where they are in the league. Let's have a quick look and sort of see at this very, very second which managers to target who are doing well, who you think might do well in general. So we're talking sort of 10th downwards, essentially, aren't you, really? So Spurs, Newcastle, Man United, West Ham, Everton, Leicester, Crystal Palace, Ipswich Town, yeah, maybe would be all right. So definitely worth looking at that, really, at the table before you actually pick your manager. If you're going to go down the path of an assistant manager, you want 5 above you, really. So if Southampton do well, Russell Martin actually does well, yeah, he might do, but they've only won 1 game. So quite frankly, I think it's safe to say Southampton are probably a no-go. I don't even think they're going to get draws or wins, so you're going to get nothing really from them. Wolverhampton 1, just maybe Gary O'Neill if they start to pick up form, Wolves. McKenna, maybe. I mean, that's 6 draws, so I think you're looking more from the draw side. Crystal Palace are an interesting one. Again, they're draw magnets, aren't they, really? So if you want this sort of the draw out of things, you get a decent set of points. 3 for a draw. So it's not terrible. I guess, and I know a lot of people, I've already read a few articles and a few people making comments on forums about who to target already if they're going down that path. And I think one of the biggest teams to look at, really, or the 2 biggest teams to look at, are your West Hams and your Everton. And maybe Leicester with Ruud van Nistelrooy in there now as well. Purely because those guys themselves are capable of scoring. They're capable of maybe nicking a draw. West Ham have done okay with the odd victory, haven't they, recently as well? But you're looking really when West Ham play a team 5 above them. So right this second, if they face, I know what we're looking at, Bournemouth or a Brentford, if they beat them, that's 16 points straight away added to your tally, which is quite good actually in that sense as well. Even if they play against Brighton and beat them, I'm looking at the teams that they are potentially capable of, beating on paper, not necessarily will beat them. Villa maybe get a draw. Nottingham Forest, I think they're capable of beat. You think on a good day, I know Forest are great. I know Villa are doing really well. Brighton are really good. Iraola's doing really well at Bournemouth. Frank is doing okay, isn't he? Really, Fulham, Silva's doing well with them. But if you look 5.5 places above West Ham right this second, you look at essentially sort of Brentford, Fulham, and these guys above. I don't think they're going to beat Liverpool, Chelsea, or Arsenal, or Man City. So you look at the rest of the teams that are 5 places or above, and yeah, they could beat Brentford on their day. They could beat Bournemouth potentially. They could beat Brighton. They could beat Aston Villa maybe. They could beat Nottingham Forest. So yeah, the teams to target this very second, as we look at it right this second, and the assistant managers to target is Jeroen van Nistelrooy, potentially maybe see how their form continues. Dyche, big question marks about his future. If he stays at Everton, target him. If he doesn't, target the manager that comes in potentially, depending on who they bring in. Lopetegui, again, similar to Dyche, but even more precarious because he's more likely to get sacked than pretty much any other manager apart from Gary O'Neill. So Lopetegui, if he leaves or stays, West Ham to target potentially as well. And then we look at the table a tiny bit, don't we? We look at Amorim at Manchester United, Newcastle, Howe and Tottenham's Ange. The reason why I haven't mentioned them a second ago is because I've also read a little thing recently, actually, the last sort of couple of hours and into yesterday about the fact that we might have to pay. It makes sense, I suppose, to a degree, but we might have to pay for the assistant manager out of our own transfer funds. So if that's the case, we'll get pricing eventually about how much these assistant managers are going to cost, but that could also have a knock-on effect as well. Who has an extra 1.5, 2, 3, 4 million pounds amount? A lot of people might do just because you're saving that in case, is that, optional in the bank to bring in a player who's in form. I know people have that strategy with fantasy. You must have £1 million in the bank or £2 million just in case so and so does really well. You got the funds to bring in the Salahs and the Haalands and that kind of the Cole Palmers as well. But I think the way I look at it is the reason why I haven't mentioned them, I said Everton, West Ham, Leicester to target potentially, is because I think that Manchester United's Amorim, I think Newcastle United's Howe, and I think Ange Postecoglou are going to cost more. Just guessing here right now, putting it out there right this second, but I think they're going to cost more as an assistant manager to purchase than the Evertons, the Leicesters, and potentially even the West Ham manager right this second. So I think that if you're going to target a manager and you're going to use this chip, because there's been such a, I wouldn't even say a balance, it's actually been more negative than positive towards this new chip, hasn't it, really? A lot of people going, what's the point? I hope it never happens again. It's going to cost me money. I have to do this. It's going to cost me a player. That's another thing that people spoke about as well. If you've got 2 or 3 Liverpool players already, or if you plan to bring in a Liverpool player, for example, if you've got 2 or 3 Arsenal or 2 or 3, from Chelsea or someone like that, they take up a slot. That assistant manager takes up one of those spaces because you only get 3, don't you, from each team. So if you've already got 2 and you plan to grab an assistant manager from them, you've locked out that seat. You've got the 3. You can't do anything with them. So you couldn't bring in, a lot of people are targeted. Liverpool, a lot of people are targeted. Arsenal as a sort of set of teams to have 3 players, or 2 or 3 players from. The assistant manager takes up that final slot or can't be brought in because you've already got 3. For example, my team right this second, if you look at it straight off the bat, I have 3. Liverpool, can't be done. Gomez, Salah, and Kwanzaa. Obviously, you're all shouting at me saying, get rid of Kwanzaa. What are you doing bringing him in? For now, he stays till the end of Christmas, I think, and into the new year potentially, because when the fixtures come and thick and fast, I think he might get a chance. And what I don't want to do is be that person that's brought in Gomez as a replacement for Konate, and suddenly Gomez doesn't play because Kwanzaa's given a chance, for example. So I have that. A lot of people have that 2 goalkeeper, don't they? They have the 4.5 and the 4 million goalkeeper, and in case one gets injured, the main keeper gets injured, the 4 million. I've kind of done that with Gomez and Kwanzaa right this second. Obviously, going forwards, I don't know what the injury update is on Konate, but I don't think it's as bad. I spoke about it in the previous part this morning. He's in the gym. That's a positive, but he's not technically on the training field yet. So that's a thing to keep an eye on, really. So from my perspective, I couldn't bring in Arne Slot as an example for this manager chip because I've got 3 Liverpool already. It wouldn't be allowed, apparently, according to the rules. So I'd have to kick out Kwanzaa because he'd be the only logical one to get rid of, and then I could bring in the assistant manager, couldn't I? Arne Slot. Just a point. On top of that as well, Arne Slot, in my opinion, is going to cost the top end, as is Arteta, maybe Pep Guardiola at the top end as well. So all of these managers, we're talking about here are going to be the top end. They're going to be the most expensive managers, aren't they? And then I think you're looking at the tier below, where you're going to get a Man United Amorim, you're going to get Maresca, you're probably going to get Ange Postecoglou, who sit that level down. So maybe $500,000 cheaper. So 1.5. I don't know how much it's going to cost for the top ones. Shouldn't be stupid money. I mean, let's be honest, we're not loaded. Even 100 million at the start of the season is not a lot, considering you want to get Cole Palmer, Salah, Haaland, Trent. You want to get all these players, Saka. You want to get all the big players into your team. Raya at the beginning of the season was a big one as well. So to have an assistant manager chip thrown in the middle of the season throws things up in the air a tiny bit. It does mess things up a tiny bit, because you're starting to think, is it worth bringing in an assistant manager? Should I even bother with this chip? Because it's not compulsory. You can just let it fizzle out, really. But you miss out on opportunity to have someone in for a couple of games. Now, one thing to point out with this chip as well, I think it's a 3-game week, isn't it? Yep. So when you activate the chip and you choose your assistant manager, you will score points for their club's results for 3 game weeks in a row. So you've got to pick that moment that you decide to activate that chip and look at the fixtures 3 games in advance. For that, maybe if you select it there and then on that same day, let's say you do it on Saturday, you'll have it for that game week, so the game week that's suddenly approaching, and then you'll have it for the week after the week after. So 3 game weeks in a row. So you've got to plan this cleverly as well, because you don't want to have, let's say, for example, Dyche, if he's still in charge of Everton, you don't necessarily want to have him when they've got really difficult fixtures. Otherwise you'll do well to maybe get a couple of points. But, and I know I'm talking a lot about this, but there's a flip side to all this, because if you pick Dyche and he plays, let's say, Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal, and they get a draw, or they get a result, or they get a win, more importantly, if they get a win, you get more points. So it is a bit of a roll of the dice situation. Let's use the Everton example. If the chip was active now and we could use it, you've got Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City. 3 solid fixtures. My thinking is those guys would be deemed to be, the top end side of things. I know if we look at the Premier League table itself, Chelsea, yeah, they would, wouldn't they? So if you look where Everton are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Forgetting the rest, you're looking at City, Arsenal, and Chelsea as being the next 3. They're definitely above 5 places. Therefore, you're guaranteed to get that extra 10 points. If they beat any of those 3 teams, then they are going to get 16. And that is very good indeed. So, however, the likeliness of that happening, ladies and gents, I know it's clever. They've tried to be clever with the whole, we'll give you an extra 10 points. But let's be honest, the chances of them beating Arsenal, no. The chances of them beating Chelsea, maybe if you're really lucky. People would say, oh, yeah, they can beat Man City. Not so sure. I think Man City's form is going like that. So, yeah, I think if you're going to target a manager, you're definitely looking at Arteta. You're definitely looking at Slot initially, Guardiola, those 3 at the top. Then maybe is the sort of that curveball option, your Espirito Santo, your Iraola, someone like that, potentially. And a real sort of bottom basement, I'm assuming, manager choices would be your Dyche, potentially, your Ruud van Nistelrooy's of this world, those 2 guys, Iraola if he comes in at cheap. Those 3 potentially are the ones to watch. Maybe Herzler over at Brighton might be an option as well. Depends how much Frank costs, really, over at Brentford. He might be an option. Gary O'Neill, Lopetegui, depends if he stays. There's so many things to think about, really, with that side of things. But I do like the principle is interesting. It's a curveball. I will use it depending on how much these managers are going to cost. These assistant managers are going to cost. Otherwise, it's a bit of a sort of, okay, probably. As long as it doesn't hit me too hard in terms of the transfer budget, because I don't have much. And you can see every week I'm working with limited budget. Right now, I've only got $500,000. That $500,000 is potentially going to go back into Liverpool to get Konate back into the team. Once I've pumped the majority of that back into the team, I'm going to end up with 0.2 or 1 or whatever, if even that. So it's not going to be good. I mean, let's use that example right this second, shall we, guys? Let's take out Gomez. Let's stick in Konate because he's gone back to the price there. So that's at our 0.1. What I'll have to do to even afford an assistant manager potentially is to go for 3.9 here. So, I don't know. Let's just do that as an example right this second, bring in a 3.9. playing 3.9, I've said this before, I was looking at Johnson, let's just stick him in, for example, and now I can potentially afford an assistant manager who's the cheapest at 0.5, if that's how much they cost for the cheapest. So I'm having to almost rip up my team. But at the end of the day, it's doable. It's doable for most people. We do have a wild card coming up at the start of next year, don't we? Really, when it twists and we start to get that second wild card option, that might change things a little bit. It might make you bring in players and then get that bit of budget out of it. Really, I will be holding my wild card, not for that reason, but I always tend to hold it unless I have major surgery I need to do to this team. Admittedly, I haven't done well recently. We've slumped a little bit in terms of points. I missed out on one option. The goalkeeper was the biggest hit the week before that when I played Fabianski rather than Raya. But I think the wild card will help a lot for people who are trying to rejig their team, but also maybe with the assistant manager option in mind, really. What we really need to have very, very, very quickly is the price it's going to cost for those assistant managers. And it needs to come out really fast from the guys over at Premier League, because the quicker we get that, the quicker we can go, I might do it or I might not. Is it worth it? It's not worth it. And we'll get more clarity from that side of things. At the moment right now, it's a sort of thrust upon you. You're getting an assistant manager chip. That's the mystery one. Bang, there you go. You can play it from. That's it. And it's one of those things that's still a little bit uncertain. We get it from game week 24, so it's still a little while away, even then. So what, you're looking 8 game weeks away? Yeah, it's January. It's keep you essentially what I'm going to say to you guys, and I know you're probably going to do this unless you're desperate, need to do surgery on your team, is to keep that wild card, that second wild card. Hold it. I mean, a lot of you hold it. A lot of you are clever and you have strategies, and you pick when you're going to actually use that wild card in and around the double game weeks towards the end of the season. But I would say keep it. Keep that wild card, just because it gives you so much options in general, and this assistant manager chip might be a useful reason behind having it, essentially. So do consider keeping it indeed. Again, you can see down here Eddie Howe. He's been put down as a name already. Andoni Iraola's one of them. Yeah, he could potentially. See, the thing is, it would have been nice to have this at the start of the season, because we could have all punted on someone like Iraola. We could have punted on someone like Howe. Could have punted on someone like, I don't know, a Dyche before that Everton started performing really, really well. So it would have been nice to have seen that a lot sooner, really. But yeah, I assume it wasn't ready, or that we were always planning to bring it in January in that sense. So yeah, okay. So that's the table right now, as you see. I'm sure you guys are doing this anyway, but keep an eye also on the live details. Big news that's come out of Wolves, as Lemina's been stripped of the captaincy. Semedo has become the new manager, which is interesting. Okay, fine. I don't know how that'll make any difference really for Wolves. I don't think they're going to end up suddenly becoming a great team just because they've swapped their captains, essentially. The points come from inside, really. Bournemouth details there as well. Sinise is out. Be interesting to see Watkins. What's happening with Watkins? He's not sure. Typical manager responses, that, isn't it? They're very coy. People call them fraudulent, don't they, as jokes? They are a bit, yeah, so-and-so is potentially free. I did read about Gabriel being back for Arsenal as well. Breaking news on top of all this, Merseyside Derby has been rearranged for Tuesday, the 11th of February. We'll see how that affects things. Tuesday, February the 11th. Let's go forward in time a little bit here. Okay, so it will be between game week 24 and 25. Ironically, that's when we've got our assistant manager chip kicks in. Hey, not saying anything here, but Dyche, maybe. He's got Leicester the week before that. He'll have Liverpool in that game squeezed between, and he will also take on Crystal Palace if he's still in charge, Everton. So maybe. I mean, Leicester in and around them. So you look at the table side of things and you say, oh, I don't know. Leicester City essentially are there or thereabouts about the same points as them. Game in hand, though, obviously, which Everton have. So you've got a team that are next to them. Then you'll have a team in Crystal Palace at this second in time are around them. Yes, so you won't be getting many points for those two. And then you'll get Liverpool, who are quite far ahead of them in the league. So that'll be a 16-pointer if they manage to beat them. Even if they don't, can Everton beat Leicester? I think they can. Can Everton beat Crystal Palace? I think they possibly can, yes. So, you're looking at 6-6 and then see what happens against Liverpool in between those two games. Points-wise, 12 and then, a potential 16 right in there. But Who knows? So just putting out there from the assistant managers chip wise, there's a rearranged that Goodison Park match that we had postponed because of the storm Dara. That's been rearranged to Tuesday, the 11th of February. So one to keep an eye on, right on that sort of moment where we apparently get the assistant manager chip. So saying nothing, just mentioning it. There you go. We have a rearranged double game week. Liverpool versus Bournemouth, Everton, and Leicester. So yeah, maybe one option there. Dyche if he's still in charge, or if someone's coming because they've got a takeover, haven't they? Everton, big takeover talks over there. So we will see. The scout does go into details if you guys want to see exactly what that assistant manager chip does. But quite frankly, I wouldn't say if it's self-explanatory. It's going to take a bit of getting used to an understanding. The biggest question mark is how much are these managers going to cost us? These assistant managers going to cost us, because that's the biggest moment. That's going to be the critical information. If you're going to tell me that the cheapest manager is £1 million, I've got a little bit of surgery to do for this team just to bring in an assistant manager with the hope that they can bring me a few points. And a lot of people say, every point matters. It can get you X position in the league. Yeah, it can. It can definitely do that. But if it's going to cost me an arm and a leg, or me to take out one of the best players in my team, or to downgrade someone that I don't really want to downgrade because of the balance of the team, I'm going to sit on the fence with it. I really am. I'm not going to say it's a bad idea. I'm not going to say it's a great idea. I'm going to say it's an intriguing idea. I think that's the honest way people should be reacting right this second. I don't like this hype that it's really bad. You shouldn't do it. It's terrible. Get rid of it. Hope it never comes back again at the end of the season and into next season. And I don't like the people who are going, oh, this is really good. This is great. I can't wait to do it. Because how do they know how it's going to play out, really? The way I look at it is, you've got to sit on the fence. And that's such a typical thing to say, cliche, sit on the fence, don't get too excited, don't get too depressed about it. But it is one of those things where the pricing of the assistant managers is absolutely paramount. It really is. $500,000 for a manager, an assistant manager, low half of the league. I'll accept that. I'll have a look into it. I'll have a think. I might just do it for a few game weeks because that's how it's 4-3. I might take a punt on it and see if I get anything out of it, really. So yeah, the price is critical, and I know the guys at Premier League aren't listening, but if they were ever listening, that is the most important bit about this chip. How much are these assistant managers going to set you back? How much they're going to cost? Because at the end of the day, that's the deciding factor for me. It really is. I won't be chopping at my team even with a wild card unless I get major injuries and suspensions. So let's see what happens with that one. So yeah, ideally. Have a look at the lower sort of part of the league managers. So everyone from 10th downwards, you're looking at really. You might just go Liverpool and get the 6-6-6 wins if they get 3 in a row. Take the 18 points and you're happy, But there are those that might be thinking, I'm quite low down in my mini league, or I'm quite low down in the league, or I'm quite low down in the rankings and I want to get higher. That might take that punt like I am with the 0.5. Reading just there as well, a bit further on. If you look down here, the price list will be announced in due course, but managers' prices will range between 0.5. Oh, there you go. That's answered my question, doesn't it, down here? I've just brought this article up before I started the live stream. So there you go. That's answered the question. That's slightly positive. It'd be interesting to see who's 0.5, because if it's just Russell Martin, I'm not going to bother. But if it's Russell Martin, McKenna, and essentially all the 3 teams that are in the lower part of the league, so Gary O'Neill, well, if that did happen, by the way, I'd bring in Gary O'Neill. If it was just those 3, maybe McKenna, I wouldn't touch Russell Martin at all. So yeah, so that's the truth of it all, if I'm honest. You'll pay for your manager. There you go. So it's exactly as I've just described. So yeah, you can't bring in more than 3. I knew that already. Yeah, I knew it would come out of the funds. I had a feeling about that as well. So yeah, okay, so that's all confirmed really in that sense, isn't it? 0.5 to 1.5 million for the assistant manager. Okay, 0.5 is the best you're going to get out of me. As for paying, well, I knew that anyway. And 3, well, I don't have 3. Well, I don't have 3 of anyone really, apart from Liverpool at the moment, and even that's up in the air with Kwanzaa. So yeah, I can afford to bring in a 3rd player from a team. I can just about afford the 0.5 million, and yeah, that's okay. We can work with that potentially. It's only for 3 game weeks, and I'm telling you right now, people, the moment that 3rd game that is finished, that assistant manager's out the door, which I'm sure he will be anyway. But I need that money back. I'm assuming we get refunded the 0.5 million once the third game is over. So game 1, game 2, game 3, all the 3 games, or the games in that game week, the 3 game weeks is over, we get the money back, because I will need that 0.5 to improve the defence in some form. So that's critical for me as well. Especially at the second, if it was to be played now, I wouldn't be buying an assistant manager unless I messed around with that side of my defence. And if I did, I'd need that 0.5 back critically to bring out, let's say, Kwanzaa and a 4.4 defender in. So I've got a bit more, choice in the defence side of things. So that's great. It's interesting. It's fun to sort of know about. I'm intrigued about it as well. So yeah, that's the breaking news about that side of things. That's everything you need to know. It's all on the Premier League website, which I'm sure you guys have already checked out. But I just wanted to mention how that works for me, because a lot of people will have over half 0.5 million in the bank, maybe thinking, I'm going to go straight for Slot, I'm going to straight for Arteta, straight for Guardiola. That's definite. That's going to happen. But with those people like me that are playing in the bargain basement area of the echelons of our fantasy world, I am looking more at the 0.5 million pounds managerial area, really. That's essentially where I'm shopping. So it'll be interesting to see. That's the critical thing. I've said it 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 times now. Very important that we need to get that manager list and how much they're going to cost. Who's the 0.5 million managers? Because if it's Russell Martin, I probably won't bother. If it's anyone other than Russell Martin in the 0.5s on top of it, so your Wolves, your Ipswich, Crystal Palace, your Leicesters, your Evertons, your West Hams, I think technically it should rate it like that. If it's going to be 0.5 million, 20 to 15, let's say, they're 0.5 million. So the teams at 20th place to 15, they're 0.5. The teams from 15 all the way up to 10, they can be 1 million, and the teams from 10 all the way up to sort of, 5, they can be, 1.5, and then you've got 2 million maybe for the big players, or 1.5 million, which is the max. So, segment it out a little bit, do it in sort of threes, 20 to sort of 13, 13 to sort of 7, and 7 to sort of 1, something like that. And that's how you do the 0.5. Obviously, won't be like that. They'll look at the teams that are struggling. They'll look at the teams that are expected to sort of fight relegation still, and they'll probably rate it like that. The problem we've got is that they did this now rather than at the start of the season, and that means that bracket, that pool of managers that would have been deemed to be the lower half of the leagues and probably the 0.5 sort of bracket, that's changed now, hasn't it, really? Your 0.5 bracket this second, if I was fantasy, the guys over at Premier League would say Southampton, Wolves, Ipswich, Leicester, Everton, Crystal Palace, maybe West Ham, those guys, bang. So that's your managers. A lot of you are probably thinking that's fine by me. Ruud Gullit, Dyche if he stays, Lopetegui if he stays, that's fine. Have him, bang, keep them. That's who I'm happy to bring in. But at the start of the season, it might well have been Bournemouth down there that you thought maybe wouldn't be doing well. Nottingham Forest, who you would have thought, they would have been a 0.5 manager, Espirito Santo. And then now look how they're doing. So it would have been nice to have had them and punted on them at the start of the season. But now it's more clear in terms of the league table a little bit more. It's a bit more, I think it's easier for them and more difficult for us. So there you go. Price predictors showing that Virgil van Dijk, Murillo, Damsgaard, Cunha, Collins, Colwill, Salah, Verbruggen, Wood, Kirkes, Bowen, O'Shea, Palmer, Isak and Young on the first half of that prediction page. So, a couple of them might be going up. Isak especially, Salah. Keep an eye on that. Virgil van Dijk is the main set from that, who are potentially going up in price tonight into tomorrow. So keep an eye on those guys. And more importantly, as I said before in the first part, keep an eye on the deadline. It is at 1:30 tomorrow in the afternoon. So it's later, not the 11 o'clock deadline. I'm on all the socials, guys, as you know. I'm on Facebook, AJP85-channel. I'm on X, AJ1985P. I'm on Twitch, A_J_P_8_5, and naturally on YouTube as well, where all the videos go. AJ Hardy 85. Like, subscribe, and follow. And more importantly, comment, people. Comment. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everyone who's watched so far, those guys that view. And more importantly, get those comments in. Don't be afraid. Don't be just a presser. Start typing. Yeah, let's communicate. All things fantasy, Premier League. You've got any questions? You want some advice? You want to start bouncing ideas off each other, looking at each other's teams? Go for it. I'd have no problems with that at all. Let me know on X or on Facebook or even on YouTube, and we'll chat more about it. But otherwise, people, hope you have a great weekend. Hope your fantasy team does well this weekend, naturally as well. I will speak to you guys on Monday and let you know how I got on. There will be a match on Monday as well. Don't forget, we have a game, and it is who's playing on that day. Let's go back really quickly to Bournemouth, West Ham. Cool, West Ham again, isn't it? I'll see you guys on Monday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. But otherwise, have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. As always, I have been AJ, and I will see you people on Monday at 10 o'clock. Take it easy, people, and